If you've clicked this video, I want you to know you can completely change your life in the next 3 to 6 months. Everyone online is going to give you this cliche self-improvement advice. Just be disciplined, or man up, or chase money whilst you're young. But no one tells you how to actually do it step by step. And that's what had me stuck for so long. So I was in university 2 years ago. I was a complete drug addict, and I had been for years. And I was on such a negative trajectory. I had no purpose, I had no vision, I had no clarity, but I still thought I could be successful. But what I didn't understand is I had to build a man that actually could be, and that's what I did. So my name's Hassan Amin Khan. Over the past year and a half, I scaled my sales agency up to over 7 figures in revenue. Had a lot of issues happen with that, but we'll get into that another day. And if you're someone that has big goals for himself, knows that he wants to achieve a lot, but you're still stuck with your vices and you just don't know exactly how to become the man that can actually be successful, then I'm going to take you through the exact framework that helped me get my life back on track. And I did this through a system called the 4 pillars of man. So that's mindset, habits, nutrition, and training. Everything is built off of these pillars, and then that's what enabled me to be successful in any walk of life, because we're not looking to just find a business model to get me to 10k a month, because this is all vanity. All of this stuff is not long lasting. Even if you get the success, even if you get 10k a month, which is just scraping the barrel, you're not going to be fulfilled if you haven't built the man, you haven't built the mindset, you haven't built the habits, you're not in good shape, you're not excelling in all realms, because the success will be fleeting and you're not going to have built the systems to replicate it and can sustain it over a long time. And that's what I've really been focusing on over the past year and a half. So if you are feeling stuck, you don't know exactly where your future's going, or maybe you've already got the success but you need more clarity, you need more purpose, you need more direction, you want to discover yourself and develop yourself even more, then keep watching, because I'm going to show you the exact framework I use to turn my life around. Right, what is up, boys? I'm going to take you through everything that got me to the point that I'm at now, but the first turning point was in the first 6 months. So that's where most of the momentum was built, because guys, once you really nail down the systems, the force that you're going to have with you, the momentum that you're going to build, it's going to be like a rocket breaking through the stratosphere. It's crazy. It's crazy. So here's me, absolutely drug addicted in 2023. I just look flipping disgusting. What was wrong with this guy? And I know exactly what was wrong with this guy. He had no real purpose. He had no grip on his vices. All he was doing was giving into pleasure every single day. So this is why I started getting in the gym a bit. I used to take these pictures after coke benders, and I'd be sat in bed unable to sleep, and I'd do it to see how bad my eyes were, because I'd be twitching and stuff, and I'd be wondering how close I was to having a heart attack, because my heart would be coming out of my mind. So my day to day at this point, I was still in the gym. I was in decent shape. Not the shape I wanted to be in, but my shape would fluctuate a lot, because I'd stay consistent for a little bit, and then I'd go out and do a bender, and then I'd go out and just fuel my body with BS after that, because I'd be eating Domino's pizza and I wouldn't eat for 2 days, and I'd feel so unhealthy, and I became so close to death so many times when I was doing coke benders. And this was the result of years. This wasn't just, it didn't happen overnight. I got into this stuff young, and it got worse when I was at uni, because I had no one keeping me accountable, no one telling me to stop. Everyone was just keeping the bandwagon going. Everyone else was in the same boat as me. But I think I was worse, because I used to end up doing it on my own. So I was in the gym, I was dieting, I was eating okay, but I was ruining all the progress with the booze and the drugs and everything. So the scariest points for me was when I'd be in bed and it's been like 24 hours and my heart's palpitating out my chest. I can't feel my limbs, I can't feel my hands and my arms, but I'd still keep doing the same stuff. I'd still keep doing the drugs, and I was addicted to weed as well, so sometimes I'd smoke that, and that would freak me out even more, and I'd use it as a vice. I'd use it to numb myself from the pain of my day-to-day life and my situation. So yeah, I started smashing the gym because I wanted to get more girls, but then it turned into actually wanting to feel good as well. But then I kept offsetting this by all the drugs I was doing. It was really impacting my brain. So I began watching self-improvement content. I was watching like Hamza, Jack Hopkins, these kind of people, but it wasn't helping because I wasn't actually building systems that were helping me better my life because my mindset was weak. I kept falling back into these vices, same stuff. I thought I was such a bad boy here because I bought this Moncler coat. What a flipping idiot this guy was. So the excuses I used to give myself, I would always be like, yeah, well, no one's had it as hard as you, no one's been through what you've been through, and I had such a victim mindset which would allow me to keep doing the drugs, allow me to keep smoking the weed and all that kind of stuff. And then I used to get really anxious when I'd be out and about and think everyone's talking about me and that kind of stuff because I didn't have confidence, because I knew that I wasn't keeping up to my promises and wasn't living up to my potential. And I built this persona in uni that I was just this cool guy, the popular guy, the party guy. But then when I wasn't high on drugs and when I wasn't high on weed or drunk, I used to be so self-conscious. So I used to use it to mask myself. And spiritually, I went away from Islam for years, and I was very on and off over like a 3-year period. And in these pictures, I started praying again. And I believe that's the one thing that actually took me out of that life and helped me really get my life on track, because I always used to pray to God, please help me find a way out, please help me find a way out, please help me find a way out. But I wasn't consistent with my prayers. Sometimes I'd miss it when I'd go on benders and stuff. I'd end up missing prayers, and then I wasn't getting the full blessing. So I started reading Quran sometimes. I was looking at quotes. I fasted my first ever Ramadan, but then the day after my first Ramadan, on Eid, I smoked weed. And me and my brother came back to Islam at the same time. So this was actually very important because we kind of kept each other accountable, and that was helping me propel my growth. But I started to feel guilty about missing prayers, and then it really helped me build my mindset, and everything else kind of came to fruition once I've nailed down my faith even more. So yeah, that's what I mean by the fluctuations in weight. So I'd be quite shredded, and then I'd go and eat, and this is in Dubai. I spent whatever money I had to go to Dubai because I was so obsessed with what people thought of me. I had like £200 in my bank account. And the habits that were holding me back were smoking the weed, giving me the false sense of productivity. Oh, it's fine, I can still be productive when I'm high. No, you can't. Sleeping late and waking up late. I had no structure for my days, giving myself freedom, but I didn't understand that having the set wake up times, having the sleep times would actually bring about discipline that would trickle on into the rest of my life, because how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you're staying up deep into the night, nothing good happens at night. You're just going to text girls, you're just going to watch porn, you're just going to do drugs, all that kind of stuff. Now, the gym was one of the main pillars that that kind of anchored me, that helped me really keep that sense of grounding in my life. But being consistent with that, and that would impact my psyche. And obviously I did all the drugs, the alcohol, the cocaine, the lust, all of that kind of stuff was just holding me back and leaving me to chase pleasure, chase pleasure. So whenever I try and build systems to focus on progressing myself, because it didn't feel pleasurable straight away, I wouldn't be able to stick at it. So obviously I had the bad diet, and I was scrolling social media too much. It was all just a way to escape from my own inadequacy. I would indulge in the pleasure to escape from my own inadequacy. And I always used to tell myself, the victim mindset, everyone does it, it's fine, it's going to be easy for me to stop. I tried quitting vaping loads and it never stuck. I was like, I'll never do coke again when I was having panic attacks. And I used to say, as long as I pray, I'm still Muslim, so it's fine. And that was all of the stuff I used to tell myself, all of the stuff that I was going through. And I really couldn't see a way out because I kept delaying the inevitable. So I had such a lack of purpose. I had no structure. I had a proper victim identity. And that every time I tried to be consistent and find a way out, that would just knock me right back down. So the turning point was I did a bender, and I was in bed and I couldn't sleep, and I had a proper panic attack. And it was a long build up. I was watching a lot of like Andrew Tate, Hamza, Jack Hopkins, all them people. And one bender, it was like 10 a.m. I think that was this picture. And I was still wired on the coke. I couldn't feel my hands. I had panic attacks. My heart was palpitating. I had to go see my family later because we were going on a trip, and I was going to go climb Mount Snowdon with my dad. And I thought to myself, I couldn't breathe, my nose was blocked, and I was like, You're 21. Like, you have all these big dreams and all these big ambitions, because that was what was fed to me from my family since a young age. And I was like, I might not even live to see these dreams. I might end up dead or in jail because I was in a whole whirlwind, that kind of life that I was in, the drugs and all that kind of stuff. And I felt such guilt, and I was like, nah, this is it. I'm stopping. I'm stopping. The one sentence I said to myself was, this isn't what a Muslim does. And that sentence really struck with me. So I had to get showered, and I was on like no sleep, and I drove back home, and then went to Wales with my family, and the whole time I felt terrible. And that was the start of me actually thinking about genuinely making the change, genuinely stopping. And I decided to put away the coke for good. I still fell back into it a couple times, and just had to find a place to put all the energy away, because I was finishing uni, everything was coming to an end, and I had to find a way to actually make things work now. I had to find a way out. So I tried everything. I tried a lot of things, and I tried a lot of things that failed, because whenever you try to better yourself, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be just one smooth sailing. I'm going to try one business model. It's going to change my life. I'm going to try one way of stopping all the bad habits, and that's going to be me set for life. You have to fail. So I was trying Forex signal groups, spent 2K on that, lost it all. I was trying affiliate marketing for Tate and HS, made no money, but I learned how to video edit. I had pointless business conversations about like me getting property and mortgages and all this kind of stuff that went nowhere, but it was still pushing me forward in the right direction. I was considering OFM, only funds management, because I was such a degenerate. Thank God I never did that. And I had this grand plan that I would move home after uni, and within 2 months, I would build a dropshipping store over summer in my room. And obviously that didn't happen, but I just thought success would be so easy, and I could just try and set my mind to it. But the one good thing is I had that self-belief that if I set my mind to anything, I can achieve it. So I was trying all of these things, and despite the failure, I kept on going. I tried quitting vaping, failed. Motivational videos, they meant nothing. Educational videos, they meant nothing without implementing. And obviously I tried my early morning wake-ups, but then obviously when I'd smoke or drink, that'd set me right back. And I used to just, if it fits your macros, I tried that style of eating, but that would just mean I'd eat unhealthy food, and it'd cloud my judgment, cloud my thinking, and I still wouldn't have any clarity and focus in my day. So when I was trying to better myself before the turning point, I tried to care about uni, so I had some sort of focus, but I just didn't care because it wasn't my purpose. So all of these things that failed, they failed because I didn't have an overarching purpose. I didn't have an overarching alignment with who I needed to be. And I didn't create enough pain in myself to actually let go of the vices until this point. I tried for so long, but I never would stick to it because I hadn't felt that proper pain yet. And I was escaping reality. I was delaying the inevitable of actually stopping. And the only time I was forced to take action is when I moved home after uni, and I was confronted with the fact that I'm actually broke. I actually have to get a job, and I was a nobody. Like, I was 21, and people are doing big things at 21. And I realized I had so much more to catch up on. So I was focusing on getting money without actually focusing on learning the skills. I was doing like Forex groups without actually learning how to trade. So I had a very money first mentality, and that's what held me back massively. And some people in my environment, when I told them my dreams and ambitions, they'd be like, oh, you'll never make 10K a month. You know how hard that is? And that lit a fire in me. But having those kind of people around me held me back for a long time. And it wasn't that I was too weak, or I couldn't commit, or I wasn't talented enough, because I've always been inherently smart, and I obviously had commitment to drugs, and I obviously had strength in the gym. So it wasn't those things. I just hadn't built the right systems to actually make the jump. So in life, it is absolutely disgusting to desire something without first being willing to sacrifice a piece of your soul in the form of effort. And that was my problem. I thought if I just figured out how to crack online money, or I worked a few hours a day, like the flipping 4-hour work week, I'd eventually reach this utopia, financial, time and location freedom. That's bullshit. All of these gurus telling you that online that it's so easy to make 5 or 10k a month just from their secret business model, they are lying to your face so they can make money. Because what happens when you sit down at the desk but you can't focus for more than 10 minutes? What happens when you go out on the weekend and you undo all of the progress you made for the week? What happens when you encounter a problem in the business and your coach can't help you and no one can tell you a solution to it and you can't figure it out on your own because you've not built the systems in your mind to be able to do so? There's no quick or easy path to success or self-development. I used to think this so much. I heard my friend was doing flipping selling milk and I was like, he's making 2k a week, so easy. This was before I self-developed. And I tried to do it myself and I quit after 3 days because I hadn't built the man that could actually do it. It's possible for one person to succeed at a thing and you to try that exact same thing and not succeed if you haven't built the man that can. So once I removed myself from the bad environments, I set out proper purpose for myself and I built the systems to fall back on, I began to shape into the man that I dreamed of becoming. And that was through this system. The 4 pillars of man. So I realized that I needed systems over motivation when I was watching all the motivation videos, I was watching all this stuff, but it wasn't getting me anywhere. It was just dopamine, mental masturbation. So I was trying everything. I was only learning surface level information though. Like it was like, do this and get this. Like, oh, well, if you wake up early, you're going to be disciplined. Okay, how do I wake up early? Why is it going to make me disciplined? No one was telling me this stuff. And I'd give up on business models after 2 months of trying like the Forex, the video editing, all that kind of stuff. And I had to realize that Allah had so much more planned for me than my old degenerate life. And once I began turning to Allah more, I began to give myself the permission to be successful. I sat there and deeply visualized the type of life I wanted, succeeding in business, and I used the fear and the pain of working a 9 to 5 forever to fuel my growth. Because when everyone around me was telling me, oh, you can't do this, you can't make 10k a month, and I had to actually work a 9 to 5, it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I started to view money as easy to get rather than hard to get. And I know that I was clowning on the 5-10k a month being hard, but when you view it as easy but understand the level of sacrifice that you need to undergo to get there, then it becomes easy, okay? So in my first initial 6 months, I wasn't an Elon Musk, I wasn't some random revolutionary guy. I just had brute force, brute effort. The 6 month growth at the start should be focused on absolute grunt work to build the right systems, to get used to hard work and sacrifice. And with that momentum alone, you can make absolute leaps and bounds in your progress. And that's exactly what I did. So I started the 9 to 5 job and I hated every second of it. I hated the people, I hated the environment, I hated the product. I was selling tool hire over the phone and it drained me, but it brought me structure. I was up every morning at 6 or 5:30 in the morning and it gave me a taste for what I did not want to do. Everyone in that environment had such a constrained mindset. Everyone was just a slave to their job. And I believe that people in these 9 to 5s that save money and they're very frugal, they're actually more vain and they see money as their god rather than the people that are actually building systems to build it, because they're the ones that are trying to save every penny. They obviously put money on a pedestal and that's why they don't get any. So this is where the 4 pillars of man came in. My family thought I was stupid for working a 9 to 5 sales job instead of getting a corporate job like an economics one, but I knew that I wasn't supposed to be in a job forever. So I didn't want a long-term thing. I just wanted a quick thing to give me cash flow whilst I figured out my next moves. And that allowed me to visualize the life I actually wanted. So everything is built on the 4 pillars of man, and the first pillar is the most important, which is mindset. Once you nail down your mindset, you give yourself direction, and I gave myself direction. With enough forwards velocity, you start beginning to break free. And because I'd pictured the life that I did not want, I was able to craft the life that I do want. I was able to kill the victim mentality, and I got more and more angry every day about all the wasted time, and I gave myself permission to succeed. I'd get really frustrated and put that energy towards my goals every single day. In work, I remember I was talking to one of my friends because one of them had decent ambition, and I was talking to him about how, oh, when I go get 20k a month, I'll go to Dubai and I'll do all of this. And someone overheard me and he said, 20k a month? So never. And bro, that guy became my sworn enemy. I hated him because how can you think like that? How do you think that you can't ever get these things when there's other people that have done it? There's other people that have done it, so why can't you do it? And I knew that I wanted to become a millionaire, but I set my first goal as 10k a month, and I used to pray for that every single day. I'd only entertain conversations with people on a similar path, and I poured out all of these dreams and ambitions to Allah to help me with the opportunities to unlock my potential. I decided my direction, I decided who I wanted to be, and I had to sail that path with relentless intention. And that's what builds the mindset. It's deciding what you want, what you don't want, and what you're willing to do to get there. Okay, you adopt the warrior mentality in all areas of your life: speed, aggression, focus. I turned all of my obsessive addictive behaviors into pure fire and purpose, and I was using it only towards growth. Okay, I'm going to take you through this escape the matrix thing I said after uni, but I understood that I had to become the complete man that was rich, ripped, and effective through imperfect action. You're not going to know what you're doing straight away. Now, mindset is completely reinforced by the habits, and you might have an aneurysm looking at all of these, but it's basically to say that the mindset, habits, nutrition, and training, everything is built on mindset and habits. Everything comes back to that. So the mindset is useless without the habits, and the habits are going to be a direct result of your mindset. So when I was overrun by my vices, my mindset was that no one has it as hard as me, and it's okay, I'll stop later and I'll change tomorrow, and when I start working, I'll stop. Now was the time that I was working. Now was the time where years of excuses had to come to the surface. So I began channeling the direction. I began waking up at 6 a.m. I went completely cold turkey from all the drugs. Sometimes I was training gym twice a day, cardio in the morning and weights in the evening. I made myself tasks lists that I had to walk through every single day. I was writing down business plans and ideas, and I paid for a course on high ticket sales. Okay, so I began posting fitness and mindset videos on TikTok, and I isolated myself from everyone. People think that when you go to work, you have to integrate with everyone at work. No, you don't, because more times than not, those people are not going to help you on your mission to success. So I was like, hi, hello. I had two people that I'd speak to sometimes in the smoking area, or when I'd be sat next to them. And other than that, lunchtime, I've got my earphones in, I'm watching something educational, or I'm doing work. And I was eating my meals, fueling my body properly. And I knew that I couldn't live like anyone else at work, so that's why I had to isolate myself. I was watching every self-improvement podcast, but actually taking notes and actually implementing it. I was going to the mosque more frequently. And it brings me to that Quran verse. Allah says, God will not change the condition of a person until they change what is in themselves. And I had all these dreams and ambitions to better myself, but I wasn't taking the steps to get there. So it's only as soon as I started taking the steps that I started to see results. My brute force daily habits, even though they weren't structured, even though my task list was like a machine gun, just random tasks, they were propelling me to my first stages of growth. I was building potential, I was building momentum, and I knew that most people were lazy. So if I just outworked everyone and I put crazy work, effort out there, eventually I'd be rewarded. Okay, so all of my old vices were gone, which just left me with pure energy and pure fire to put my obsession elsewhere. So the habits are what reinforce the identity. You're building a new identity when you're bettering yourself and when you're building purpose and clarity. So the mindset that I'd set out for myself, I'd enact on the habits every single day. And that led me to believing that I was who I thought I was. So the nutrition was super important in developing the right physique. I was eating chicken and rice, chili and rice, chicken pitters, tuna and sweet corn steaks, and I was bulking. I began to put on good size. I was eating in between breaks at work. Everyone thought I was a weirdo. I was eating in between calls. So sometimes they call me up on it. I didn't care. I was only there for my salary. And I stayed consistent with my nutrition and meals because I wasn't going on benders anymore that were stunting my progress. And I'd be eating my meals, and because I was bulking and trying to eat pre-workout meals, I'd be quite carb heavy, and I just offset that with coffee just so I could get more work done because I'll get to this next, but I was doing different business models. I was doing appointment setting and video editing for my videos on TikTok during this period. So everyone at work thought I was weird, but is what it is. They're weird to me. I'll always be weird to them. And you are weird if you're going against the grain, you're going to pursue success. But I'd rather be weird and fulfilled and purposeful than broke, lazy, unsatisfied, and still addicted to my vices, okay? So I was only fueling my body with the best food sources and cutting out the junk so I could perform in the gym and my daily conquest. And that was obviously reinforced by the training. I was hitting push-pull legs 6 days a week, making content for TikTok. I was putting on amazing size. I did not miss a session. I was having about 6 to 7 hours of sleep at night, which I think is all you need unless you're a super athlete and that's your main focus. But my main focus is productivity and becoming well-rounded. So 6 to 7 hours will do. It was a serious outlet for all of the anger that I'd built up for not reaching my potential yet. And training hard reinforced my mindset because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And because I was giving it 100% in there, I was giving 100% everywhere else in my life. And when I'd be in the gym, I'd bump into people from school, and they'd ask me about my TikTok videos because I was making mindset and training videos and how uni was a scam. And they'd ask me what I'm doing. I'll be like, oh yeah, there's just so many business models I just need to try. I don't know which one of them it'll be. And some of them would just look at me like I'm crazy. Like, oh yeah, well, what job do you want? I was like, no, not job, business. And they used to think I was an idiot, but this built from the gym became my identity. I became the one that was ripped, the one that was pursuing his goals every day, the one that was not refusing for less. And I loved it, to be honest. I had a lot of resistance from other people. I had a lot of times where I thought, should I just quit? But I loved the whole process because I was actually bettering myself every single day. And it gave me abundance, it gave me power, and it gave me confidence. So everything is built on the mindset and the habits. That allowed me to stay consistent with my nutrition, and it allowed me to stay consistent with my training. Back when I was this guy, I couldn't stay consistent because I hadn't built the mindset and my habits were very few and far between. And that's why my nutrition lacked, and that's why my training lacked, and I didn't get in the shape exactly I wanted to be in. These are the core pillars that are going to push you towards success. And that's what helped me so much. So the results that I saw when I first took the proper leap and I was using all the brute force, within the first 3 months, it was straight up grunt work. All of the anger, all of the aggression, all of the passion. I had to make something work. I heavily opposed the school system. I made this video. It was an interview on my graduation day. I can't believe University of Manchester posted it. But they asked me, what am I going to do with my degree? And I said, I'm going to escape the Matrix. And it went viral, and it's a sick video. But I had clarity of thought now. I felt like my brain was starting to be put to use. And I became very angry. And anger is not a bad thing. The world wants you to suppress your anger because then that stops you from getting things done, and that makes you subservient to their agendas. I channeled my anger into growth. I had so much more energy, and I didn't have the solid systems nailed down, but the imperfect action was moving me forward. I started appointment setting. I bought a course on appointment setting, which is basically it's high ticket sales. You help people book more calls. I was learning that, and my ambitions were to start my own agency with it down the line, and I wanted to make loads of money with it. And obviously I didn't make any money with it whatsoever, but I was putting that brute force effort out there. I was in Hustlers University. I was doing copywriting on there, and I was just hustling so hard every day, and I was so angry that I was in the Matrix. I was hustling, that I was still in sick shape, and yeah. These were the TikTok videos that I used to make. I made a TikTok video about how the whole uni system was fake, sat in my Ford Fiesta. One guy from school commented, he was like, oh, you must have loads of money then, what car are you in? And that pissed me off so much. He was right, but it really fueled my anger. So I began to get more respect from people that could see that I was actually working hard. And I was smashing it with the social media, smashing it on appointment setting. Every single hour of my day was productive. Every single hour. And I'd never had this before. I never had this level of purpose and direction. And it really propelled me forward. So my parents could even see that I was working. And I fell in love with the work. Even though I wasn't making money, even though I felt like I wasn't making progress, I fell in love with the daily effort because I felt like all of my energy was being put to good use. So I got my first two appointment setting clients. I worked for a growth operating agency and a fitness coach. And that during my 9 to 5, I was just typing away. That's all I was doing. In between calls, and they used to shout at me for being on my phone. I used to ignore them. I'd also be editing my TikTok videos during the 9 to 5, and I do copyright in Hustlers University as well. Doing too much. Obviously, I wouldn't do this now, but this was just the grunt work period to actually get through. But we'll get in a bit later, and maybe in another video on how to the systems that I use now. But the next 3 months after that, all the work started to come to fruition. Started to make money. I got my first car, nice car, which was the Audi A3 S-Line. I had a red Ford Fiesta before this. I was still consistently posting on TikTok, and I was making about 2.5k a month from my sales job. So that's what helped me buy the car. And I was putting in so much work. I still made no money with appointment setting, but this was a massive turning point that I saw a friend from uni. I saw this friend from uni, and he posted a picture in Dubai with a Lambo, and that made me so angry. I was like, how has this guy done this? How has this guy done this? Obviously he rented it, but my brain was just like, Lambo, Dubai, nah, that's enough. So I messaged him, and he was in door-to-door sales, and it was a really good opportunity. And I ended up on the phone to him, and then we ended up arranging a meet. And he showed me the numbers, he showed me everything, and he told me he wants to make £1 million within this year. And that was music to my ears, because I finally felt like I was on the right path. I finally felt like someone understood, finally felt like someone was on the same mission as me. And I sailed that ship with a relentless intention. I quit my 9 to 5 job the week after that meetup, and I started the door-to-door sales. I started working with him. And at first I hated it. At first I wanted the people to shut the door in my face. And through enough, I just realized the only way I'm going to get good at this is if I do it all the time. So I worked 7 days a week. 7 days a week, knocking doors in the freezing cold and the rain in Bolton and all these places in Manchester. And my goal now was to make £1 million in the next year. So within 8 weeks, I became the top seller in the country. Can I zoom? Yeah. Persistence is key. Don't be afraid to keep pushing. The more objections get declined, the more your pockets get lined. And all of this stuff, it didn't happen overnight. It was just the brute work every single day. The mindset that was reinforced by my daily habits. The nutrition that was fueling my body to keep going. The training that allowed me respect for myself and from others. It just all worked together to help me become the man that I needed to be. So I made enough money here to be able to go to Dubai in January. So I'm not going to include that today because that's a whole different story. But all of this stuff just compounded. Everything was built on the mindset. Everything was built on the vision that was reinforced. And I started leading office meetings. I went to Dubai, spoke to a Russian millionaire that further changed my mindset. But do you guys see what I mean? When you're first starting out, it's the grunt work that gets the needle moving forward. And from there, the potential is limitless. The momentum is literally like a rocket breaking through the stratosphere. And from that point, you can't lose. Like, this is just me getting more appointment setting clients and all that kind of stuff. But I knew that I was finally in the right place now. And I made such a headway. I didn't do drugs again. I slipped up once at Halloween. I did pills, and it was Halloween night. It was Satan dancing on the stage with like all the animations it sent me under. It made me realize how satanic and degenerate and disgusting all that life is. So I never went back to it, and I used all of my energy and all of my mission. Still all of my success now, all of who I am now, has always reverted back to these 4 pillars. And whenever I've strayed away from these 4 pillars, my life has gone downhill. That's when I didn't make money with my agency and I got fat, and it all worked together. So The system's foolproof, and it's what I live by. And it doesn't just work for me. It works for dozens of other men, but most notably Brad. I met Brad through the initial door-to-door business before I started my door-to-door sales agency, and that was in 2024. And through mentoring people in sales, I was able to see the 4 pillars of man in action before I started taking that the mentoring a bit more serious. But Brad was really special as he took on board everything I said without hesitation. He just turned his brain off. He came to me, he was really lost, he had no confidence, he couldn't even speak to people on doors, and he saw that I was doing well, so he kept asking to spend time with me, asked me for advice. He had no structure and no routine, and before this he'd only worked at Domino's and made £800 a month. And he actually has really good genetics and really good physique potential, but he never stayed consistent enough to see any results. And he's good at boxing too. So the approach that we took with Brad, came to me in a sales kind of format, but the approach I took with him to better himself wasn't let's focus on a new sales trick, because you can learn a new sales trick, but then what if you don't show up to work the next day because your mindset and habits aren't built? What if you do learn a new sales trick, but then you're fat on the door and people don't want to speak to you? Everything comes back down to the 4 pillars. So we focused on his mindset. We focused on mapping out his ideal life, who he wanted to be, how we would get there, step-by-step input goals. We built, obviously, a habit structure for him, things that he wanted to get rid of, things that he wanted to stop doing. And we mapped out his plan for the next 3 to 6 months, his physique, his lifestyle, his finances, his spirituality, his confidence, his clarity and purpose and structure. And Brad stuck to the system every single day. Every single day. Now, these pictures were 3 months apart. This was us knocking doors in Stoke. And then this was 3 months apart, us in Rome. And he'd obviously put good muscle on. He looks a lot more healthy. He started back getting money. He was making more money than me at this point. He's got some nice Prada shades on, and Brad became the top seller on the sales team. He started making himself 2 to 3k a week, which was more than me at that point. He was getting paid in advance payments. We were selling boilers and that kind of stuff, and you only get paid when the boiler's installed. And this is at the point where I was running my agency here, so I was only getting paid from my guys when the boilers would get installed. And Brad was getting paid advance payments of £200 a week, and he was doing 10 to 15 sales a week. So he was smashing it. He built himself back into the killer shape. His diet and nutrition was better than mine at this point. He started writing us diet plans and meal plans because he was so locked in. He became so passionate about it. He was hybrid training, boxing and weightlifting, and he started to build his own sales team, helping others to make money. He was in debt before this as well. He paid those off. I think he was 6k in debt, and at the time of this, he paid off like 4k and was paying off the rest. And his fashion choice was not great before this, and now he started investing money in clothes and he built aura, not in a gay way, but he built aura. So this is another 3 months after the Rome picture. Brad reverted to Islam earlier in the year, and we went to Umrah together, our first Umrah, which I want to get into in another video, but that really changed our lives. So that was all in the span of 6 months. Once again, building yourself into the ideal man doesn't happen overnight, but it happens with purpose, mapping out the structure, mapping out who you want to be, sailing that direction with relentless intention every day. And you need the fine details, okay? You need to know exactly what it is. So what I want you to guys to do is I want you to map out a structure for yourself, map out everything we've been through with the mindset, the habits, the nutrition, the training. What's your mindset right now? What habits are holding you back? How's your nutrition? How's your training? What do you want to achieve in the next 3 to 6 months? Okay? What stage are you at right now? What excuses do you tell yourself? What's holding you back? And what have you tried? Because you have to, even when I was a degenerate, like these pictures, I was still trying. I just hadn't built anything that could stick. I hadn't built myself into the man that can make anything stick. This is what genuinely transformed my life. So I want you to write down 5 goals you want to achieve over the next 3 to 6 months. We'll start that way. Start that way. That's going to build you enough fire to get some direction, to get moving. And from there, we're going to build out everything else. Everything else is going to help you better yourself. So if you guys want more of this, you can check the rest of the videos on my channel. If you want to see what I do my day to day, because my day to day is a lot more regimented now, and I've got a lot more structure to my days. There's a whole process, the 5-4-5 method that I want to take you guys through. So if you follow me on Instagram, you can see that. Or if you want to just get to putting the systems into action that I used that actually turned my life around, you can see if you can qualify for the one-to-one mentorship. The link is in the description. But it's a pleasure, boys, and I want you guys to know that anything that you put your mind to, you can and will achieve. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to come overnight. It's going to take the grunt work, the development, and the systems. But eventually, on a long enough time frame, through enough consistency, enough persistence, and enough work ethic, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. And it only takes 3 to 6 months to change your life around. Keep pushing, boys.